tonight's tactical enhancement is the bee's knees. Tonight we're playing Warhammer 8th edition, 2,000 points. It's 2,000 points worth of Dark Elves against 2,000 points worth of Chaos Dwarves. Quick whip through what we have, and we have 1 Metal Hydra, 25 of the plastic Corsairs, the standard bearer in the unit there she is. Is a converted, used to be one of the characters that runs around behind a Hydra telling it where to go. Now it just whips the poor bastard on front of the standard there. A little bit of magic to keep it alive, and a whip to keep the slave in order. Another Metal Hydra, a unit of 10 Dark Shards. I'll just pop that over there so if the mage explodes he doesn't get killed. And we've got this mage here. I made a chauvinist reference about her costume once before and the sort of parties I've been to.
She's a level 4, Chris.
Level 4 with a bit of stuff to keep her alive. Another 10 Dark Shards here, deployed before I knew where the infantry was going to be, so not much to shoot at from here. I have to do something about that. 25 of the Witch Elves, who, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I did the head look like henna, based on people I hung out with in, the 90s and early noughties when goth was still a thing. And over here, the first unit I deployed was 5 of the Cold Riders, and for some obscure reason nobody deployed opposite them. Can't imagine why. Now for the Chaos, and some commandos packing Murdoch can schemes just outside 12 inches of the dwarf line. As for the Chaos Dwarves, talk us through what you've got.
Sorcerer Prophet leads the army level 4 with Law of Hashut in a unit of 29 Infernal Guard wielding fire glaives. The battle standard bearer is also in this unit.
Is that a dwarf? Oh, so it is, yep. It's hard to tell.
So
yep.
Conversion, I think, of it. And then we have a Demon Smith, level 1 with fire.
Right.
Is riding a Dreadquake mortar with a Slave Ogre.
And
way to take him.
You see the way that he's placed? He's placed like Cher on the battleship.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's yeah, it's going to turn back time on the baritone, on the baritone of his voice when that thing fires.
Time he's sitting
Turn
on that
back
barrel.
time. All right, moving on.
We have the feared Magma Cannon with quite a nice paint job, followed up by an Iron Demon.
Lovely.
And then rounding out the army, we have a Hell Cannon over here by itself, so it doesn't hit other stuff. And
that's just being very conservative.
2,000 points exactly on to the point.
Yes, and I'm wondering how the hell I'm going to kill it all. Mine comes in at 1995, so if I lose horribly, I'm going to say it was the points discrepancy.
Yeah, we didn't know what Chris was bringing tonight. He didn't know what we were bringing tonight.
That's right.
We definitely came up with a 2,000 point shooter army. So we have a lot of firepower, and the mages have selected spells that are also shooter spells. So
I don't think I've ever taken an army that's shooty, I feel fucking wood elves.
Yeah, I did message Amelia with the option for like great weapon dudes, but it was like no, let's go with this one. So
let's go with it.
I think
we shall see. It's a pure Chaos Dwarf elite army. That's the theme. No goblins allowed, no centaurs allowed, nothing that's not a Chaos Dwarf in here.
Well, but the only thing that's off is the ogre.
I certainly hope you misfire a lot, because that's probably the only way.
He's the only invited friend.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I guess technically.
Yeah. All right. Well, lovely. That's.
Oh, Chris, we rolled.
Oh yes, we rolled. Jesus.
Beautiful.
Yes, they get the first
well.
turn. Oh yeah. So I'll put the recipe for the cocktail in the comments if I remember. So thank you, gentlemen.
So we both rolled a 2, but we get a +1, so we won.
Due to the size of the army being so small.
So they've got slightly less units than I have, which is probably just as well, because they're going to kill 2 or 3 of my units on the way in. Anyway, on that note, we'll check in at the end of turn 1. Right, it's the end of turn 1, first half. The Chaos Dwarves got first half. I'm working very hard to resist the urge to concede straight away. The magic phase was largely uneventful. Lots of dice got thrown, but nothing got through. Then in the shooting, these guys needing 6s, then 4 pluses, bumped off 3 out of 5 of these guys. There's enough dice, it's probably not to be sniffed at. And the Dreadquake Mortar landed right on target and blew away more than half of this unit. They're now subject to dangerous terrain. We'll check the finer details of that, but that's the problem we've got. Right, then for the next trick, they dropped the, what the hell is that thing?
Hell Cannon.
Hell Cannon on these guys, a direct hit again, blew away more than half the unit, and they failed their morale, and they've run away about 4 inches. So 50% of my combat units are now immobile or fleeing under the guns. So we'll have a go at the Dark Elf turn 1. We'll see if we can do anything constructive.
We got a bit lucky in that the Hell Cannon's crazy shell leadership makes them take a test at -1, which is the only reason they failed.
Yeah.
It was only that -1 modifier, so that was a bit lucky with us getting the Hell Cannon.
That's fine.
One of the cannons blew up.
Magma
And the nice thing was they actually missed originally. They decided not to like that very much.
You got
Rerolled.
greedy. Blood frenzy.
This guy apparently gives a reroll to anything within 3 inches.
Yeah.
And on his reroll, he must have given them some slightly dodgy
A
instructions.
misfire.
Yeah.
And then I rolled a 1, which is to destroy.
Yeah.
Which is the only redeeming feature of this turn. It's been rather ugly, and well, we'll give it another go, and we'll see what happens next turn. Turn 1, Dark Elves. I think this highlights the nature of the problem. I've got these two things running forward by themselves, just because we have to keep moving. But if I get to him at all, it's going to be piecemeal. These guys didn't move because I can't afford to lose anymore. We did have a buff there. Strength and toughness. The way that they're interpreting the rules, and apparently this has been fact somewhere along the line, is when you hit by the Dreadquake, even if you don't run, if you just do a basic move or a reform or a character leads units or anything, any model that moves at all on a roll of a 1 is a casualty. No armor save.
Yeah.
So we decided we'd hold off moving this turn. The Witch Elves rallied, but of course they can't do anything else.
Lucky they rallied too.
Yeah, as well.
Just passed.
These guys moved up at their full move, but they're only base 7, so it's not very fast. These guys moved at the double to get into a position where they could do something. The mage moved up with this unit. They shot, they did nothing. And in the magic, well, we buffed these guys' strength and toughness. Probably should have done it for the unit that mage is in actually, but that is notwithstanding. The other spell was stopped on a double 6 on the dispel roll. So we didn't get any magical attacks out. So basically nothing of any offense has been done. Oh, these two guys moved up. I suppose that's skirmishes, so I can actually still shoot weirdly. We'll shoot your infantry. 1 hit. 1 wound.
So armor piercing?
Yep.
That's gone down.
So we killed 1 dwarf.
The guy is ready for it.
Alright, so that's it. Now we'll see. Look, at this point, I think the only way I'm going to win this is if the Chaos Dwarf army blows itself up via its mages or its weapons.
It's happened before.
Otherwise, they're going to get diced off the table in the space of about a turn. We'll check in at the end of turn 2 and let you know how that went. Right, it's the end of the first half of turn 2. That's the Chaos Dwarf half of turn 2, and this is the casualty pile. These guys have only just rallied. These guys are running away. 7 of them got blown away. That thing charged a Hydra and killed it pretty much on the charge with a little bit of help from the crew, and it did nothing in return because that thing's tough as, what, 7?
Yeah.
And it hits at strength 8.
Yeah.
And you rolled a 6 on the impact hits, which didn't help.
Yeah.
The magic was a whiff again, and the shooting was pretty bad. They took a couple of wins off of this with that big unit of shooters. Now here's the situation, right? I've got 2 below 50% infantry units which are even further behind their starting point than the start of the game. The Hydra's gone, half the shooters are gone. And I've got 1 wounded Hydra and a wounded unit over there. Now this army we're up against, 4 war machines and 1 block of, it was a modest Death Star. Even with their magic having whiffed 2 turns in a row, and even with one of the war machines having eaten itself, and one of the war machines missing this turn, it still destroyed more than 50% of my army in 2 rounds. And that's pure dice, so they're not even spectacular dice.
Oh,
So
the
we're gonna.
dice are pretty lucky to
Well,
get the direct hits.
they were lucky with the.
We've had 4 shots. We've had 3 direct hits.
Yeah.
Between the cannons.
Well,
which
yes,
is
but that you use rerolls to get some of those.
Yeah.
So you
Engineers.
pay the points
Yeah.
in order to get a 2 and 3 chance of getting a direct hit.
But,
anytime you
for
shoot.
example, this one has no rerolls and that's got 2 direct hits.
Your hell cannon was savage.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
one, yeah.
But on the flip side, your magic hasn't worked when your cannons aid itself. So on balance, the dice are not the problem. The dice are balancing out roughly even. But my God, this army is a nightmare. So I was about to concede because there's absolutely 0 chance of a win. But we thought we'd play it through just for the intellectual consideration of what actually happens.
And to share it with the viewing audience.
And the start
Yes, well, it's a bit like showing the viewing audience your experience at a Bucks night with a dominatrix that you didn't want.
Well, that sounds like something people would want to see.
I don't know if that's the viewing
Well-
audience that we were going for.
Well, there are dark elves. I mean, you know, we're in that scheme of things. But yeah, this is a pretty ridiculous game, and the only way I'm going to win it is with an awful lot of 6s at the right moment for me and the wrong moment for them. If that doesn't happen, I'm just going to have 0 troops left on the table at the end of it. But look, we'll play through another couple of turns and see what happens. Right, in movement for Dark Elves turn 2, God help us. They move forward. Those chaps move forward. They're probably going to lose combat against that thing, but there's nothing else to do. They charged. I did average on the magic dice, but I really needed more to make it work. And we did very little to that thing, in fact nothing, and we lost 2 casualties in return, which was probably fairly forgiving under the circumstances. But I didn't know it was unbreakable when I charged it, which kind of defeats the purpose of being in melee with it.
And also, you passed a terror test to charge it. So
Yeah,
there's a lot
yeah.
going on there.
That does stop it from shooting.
Yeah, I mean, it stops it from doing it to anybody else, but that's not quite as effective as I would have liked. These guys move forward. I didn't bother moving the Hydra forward because if I do it by itself, it's just gone next turn. Yes, that's the end of turn 2. On the magic, we buff these guys by strength and toughness by 1.
No, I think we stopped that, but they got cursed.
No,
No, you got through.
Oh, both got through.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we did the curse, which reduces their weapons ballistic skill by 1. I don't expect to have much on the table at the end of turn 3, but we'll go ahead with it anyway.
Like if they get these.
So this is the casualty pile at the end of turn 3, and this is what's left, and these guys are running away. Now they got 1 spell off in the magic, which is just enough to bump the last 3 wounds off a Hydra.
Oh, killed the.
Yeah, 2.
And they did get some magic that killed the last 2 of the commandos. Look, those were only there to flank charge these guys and stop them doing defensive fire in the event of me actually getting anywhere near a charge. But truth be told, that makes absolutely no difference because my line didn't get anywhere near close enough to actually launch a charge. So yeah, in the melee they got fucked up. They got shot a little bit by those guys.
Yeah.
With the
2 guys,
debuff,
lost
killed
3
maybe
guys.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had put a spell on them, which meant they were hitting on 6s instead of 5, so that saved maybe 4 or 5 casualties.
Yeah.
And these guys lost another 7 to...
That another direct hit. That's gone 3 for 3.
Yep. And they cut the direct hit from the Earthshaker.
Water, yeah.
And now they're affected by the tremor rule.
Yeah, notwithstanding that, there's not enough of them left to do anything anyway. So at this point, I'm just playing this out for the sake of bloody mindedness, really. It's not really a game so much as a shooting gallery, but we'll do turn 3 for the Dark Elves, and I don't know, maybe I'll magic something out of my ass and kill something. Alright, end of turn 3. Okay, so the charge whiffed. I needed an 8, which the odds weren't great, and if I had got in there, it really would not have been a good fight.
We had a stand and shoot too, which we haven't done. But
Yeah, well, that notwithstanding. The magic didn't do anything in the end. Well, I got +1 strength and toughness on those guys, but I needed Amber Spear to kill a war machine to have any semblance of a chance at anything. That didn't work. Then we charged the last 2 of the cob ones into that. They were always going to die, but a flurry of ones didn't help. And that's about it, really. I mean, there's absolutely nothing that can be done. We're going to play it through just to let them kill every single last elf on the table, but yeah, I think we can see what's going to happen. These guys will get shot to hell from a couple of things next turn. That'll charge these guys and wipe them out. They'll probably get eaten by the cannon over there, and that's it. That's all over. So, gentlemen, what have we learned?
It's a 2,000 point game, and I've got to say that if the Skaven had come on with the Dark Elves, I think it would have been a better matchup for you.
Well, originally, yeah, it's worth noting, originally they were expecting to face me and one other person who was going to take a different army, and he was going to take Skaven, mostly just tar pit stuff, really.
I had heard that guy's somewhat brutal. I know Emilio wanted to have something that had a bit of punch, and this does have a bit of punch.
Oh, a bit of a lot of punch. There's a lot of punch in this.
But yeah, you know, like toughness 3 Elves if you get lucky with the hits, with the Hell Cannon, 3 direct hits, strength 5, you know, templates on 2+ is brutal.
But the luck in the turn 3 of the game for both sides, okay, maybe it favoured the Chaos Dwarves, but the game was already lost at the end of the shooting phase of turn 2 for the Chaos Dwarves. After that, we were just moving shit around for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
And your luck wasn't abnormal in the first 2 turns of the game. Your magic didn't work at all.
Yeah.
You brought one of your own machines, and one of your machines missed one shot. So, you know,
I still think, like with the Hell Cannon getting 2 direct hits, I mean, normally when I have this many, I misfire a lot more, but 2 direct hits, not scattering. Well, 3 direct hits from 4 shots is very.
Well, look, sure, he did.
And also I'm thinking
one machine didn't get to kill anything at all because it killed itself.
Oh, but that's
one machine hit once and missed once.
But the machine that blew up was probably the least dangerous.
Well, no, it's a fine template against toughness 3 guys.
In terms of
lethal.
In terms of luck, like for example with the charge, which is about 50-50 mailed, and then on the Hydra 6 for impact hits, and given it does 6+2, that was ridiculous. But also with our saves, even when the Elves had a chance to do that, we were a bit lucky to save like that 3+.
Just to show the viewers, this is our casualty pool.
Yes.
Yeah, and no misfires at all with all of our magic. Which I mean, no miscast, which is
and we had a lot of dice to throw.
True, but you got one spell through.
No. I'm with him being a 300 pointer. You said just 1 or 2 miscast can switch a hero.
I think.
Yeah.
If we go back to basics, if we start at the very beginning, no one said anything about the terrain. I think the terrain. Was a shooter army had a huge advantage because there's a lot of open terrain.
We had the good deployment in that they were out of position, but again the big luck was on that first turn on rolling a 2, because if the Dark Elves get the first turn, it can change a lot. I actually think that Elf army with the 60 poison shots at 30 inches is really good, because then it can kill a bunch of war machines if it gets the first turn.
Well, look, maybe, but it's worth noting that these war machines. They're not normal war machines. It's not like a 3 wound.
Oh, that
dwarf cannon.
Yeah, this one is brutal.
That thing's got
6 wounds, including the ogre.
6 wounds. That thing's got 6 wounds.
That's more like a steam tank.
That thing's got a ward save. I've been up against that pastor before. Those things are soak up arrows.
Yeah, I hate those things.
And they're great value, 150 points or something.
210, I think, for Hell Cannon.
But what it did, it paid for itself double.
So tough because they can have.
Yeah, so there's a handful of things in this Warhammer that I hate. That's one of them, because you've got what is essentially a 150 point war machine coupled with the fighting prowess of a 160 point Hydra
with a ward save. That's
and it weighs in 40 points more than a Hydra.
Yeah. Well, as a Beastfen player, Cygor is 6 wounded, toughness 5, no save, 275 points. And it hits much weaker than that, and we'll lose a straight league battle. It's
but I guess back to
plus it has a 4+ armor save, which it really doesn't.
This table's quite large,
and it's unbreakable, so it can protect the flank. It's just
the table's quite large. There isn't a lot of terrain for cover for Chris. He couldn't hide. There was nowhere to hide. He was in the open. He was spread out.
The first turn, when we got the direct hit causing the Witch Elves to flee, that kind of took them out. And then the two melee units being the Corsairs, which were quaked from the Dread Quake, and then when they ran, which was quite unlucky.
Yeah.
I will say in terms of we targeted them because they were out of range for the BSB, which did help, and that -1 we're a bit lucky with. But the Quake, if this hits, that's brutal. And that, of course, later on hit the Knights too.
Look, there are ways of killing this army. They evolve things like Law of Life, just spamming dwellers below.
Yes.
Or
flanking units in numbers.
Well, if
no, because they just get smashed the same way everything else did.
If it loses the first turn, then you can kind of get up on it because there's very little. There's only like 5 or 6 things. But if it gets the first turn, it gets that group.
One more turn worth of movement would not have changed the outcome of this game.
No.
Only because we got lucky with the shooting, but because we could shoot you before you could like cast spells and do anything.
Well, that did make some difference. I mean, it probably cost me about 4 casualties off of this unit. That not being able to buff them with toughness.
But like because if you'd been able to move it, they would have been up like 10. But because we were able to panic them on the very first turn, it meant that took them out of the game completely.
He lost 2 turns.
I guess my point is, even so, wouldn't have made a difference.
Yeah.
I'm 2 moves away from getting anywhere as it is.
Chris is right.
Arrive till turn 5.
You could have played your best game and it still wasn't going to be good enough with this matchup.
Because the Dark Elves could shoot, you can plink a couple. Like, I don't know, because I've played against this. If they get the first turn and you get lucky, it's a brutal game. That's why it's an annoying list. I wouldn't normally use it.
A different army, specifically tailored to kill this army, if you've got the right army with the right models and you don't have too many fucked up dice rolls, okay, it can be done.
Yeah. The other thing to keep in mind is we had 4 war machines, 1 misfire, about 7 direct hits.
Yeah, which is statistically very rare.
Yeah, and because we've got these guys helping out.
This one we paid extra for the ability.
I'd point out though that the last 2 direct hits are completely irrelevant because the game was over at the end of turn 2.
But still, just the luck was with the help.
So you had 1 machine blow itself up, 1 miss, and then you had 1, 2, 3 hits.
Yeah.
And from the cannons, I think from 6 you've got 5 hits out of 6.
You
which
did.
Is ridiculous.
You did, but the first 2 turns of this game is the only turns that mattered.
Yeah.
You
got 2 hits.
Yeah, and with the hell cannon.
And they took them out of the game.
Yeah.
And took them out of the game.
Yeah. And that was your hitting power gone.
And in that matchup, the strength versus elves, it's really cruel. Like orcs and stuff with the toughness 4, it's a.
But that's what I'm saying. If you had Skaven, they're a low value casualty. These are high value casualties.
Too with that leadership test.
A goblin army would beat this army.
And
goblins have the shooting with the doom dice.
You had spider riders, you had giant spiders, you had fast moving troops, faster than the elves.
2,000 points worth of goblins would have a better chance against your army than any elite army. If you take an elite army against this army, you're fucked.
And the goblins would have had bolt throwers, they would have had catapults, they would have had doom divers. Doom divers could have made a difference.
Yeah, you'd have twice as much artillery pieces and lots of targets to soak up wounds.
With a goblin, you get
in
3 for or 4 for an elf.
Yeah, but we'd be going, we just killed 7 goblins, 20-something points, big deal. But we killed 7 of their, elite soldiers, and that's like over 100 points.
I think there's something to be said about because the army list that these guys come in is a specialist book, and if you take a specialist army from a specialist book against a conventional army. You're gonna win.
No, I disagree with that. They're mid-tier overall.
I think, Chris, if it depends on
the way that with the being a skew army, being a shooting army.
I think if it was 3,000 points, you could have actually brought something different to the table. I think if you had different terrain, it could have actually affected the game because there was actually very little that stopped our line of sight. And so I got all those hits in because there was nothing in the way to stop that except for dice rolling.
The big weakness of this is that every target is like a high value target, and if you get the first turn, you can take out a couple and it does a lot.
This is a perfect.
But if it gets rolling, which we were right in, then it's really hard to.
Yeah, the interesting thing about terrain is because we've gone back to playing the woods terrain according to the rules as written, rather than essentially using the Flames of War rules for us, which I prefer. Forests don't block line of sight anymore. I think it's a real weakness in the 8th edition rules, and we're only doing it this way because we've got more gamers coming here, and everyone's used to playing the rules as written, not the house rules, so we did it as a point of fairness. It works a lot better if you can actually hide in forests rather than forests just being something pretty to run between and slightly annoy cavalry. But yeah, so even with like 3 forests on the table, we're better ass naked running around under all these guns.
Made no difference.
You really have to fight it in a
I think change it. Yeah, it's almost as if they were.
So Chris, what would you have done differently with your 2,000 points?
Well, the problem I've got today, and the reason I got really pissed off, is because there's absolutely nothing that I can do differently
with this army.
Yeah, I did the correct things. I'm like the dreadnoughts I threw away at the end of shits and giggles, but they were the first thing I put down on the table, and then the whole rest of the army was deployed over here. And I just got diced off the table without right of reply, basically.
I do think that in this matchup, if that it was that we were playing the Dark Elves, I feel if they were kind of mobbed on the one side within the BSB and kind of came up that was kind of a nothing bit. And then
I've done that before, and look, I understand the logic of what you're saying, and being,
again, it's dice dependent.
Being under the BSB is important. The flip side of it, though, is when your templates deviate, they hit somebody else.
Again, when you kill like 14 elves in one shot, it's not much you can...
Nasty.
Yeah.
With no saves, it's not much. There's limits,
I mean, I take your point around tactics, and this army actually does work better as a battle line around the standard bearer. But against template weapons, you've got to spread out.
Yeah.
It was just purely the witch elves running.
Would we have done anything differently?
In terms of...
Because this was basically a 2,000 point shooter.
Well, we were kind of like, because we could kind of park on the one side, and because that is... I actually feel like, for example, my friendly games that I play with, I actually put that as either... We generally have that as a 250 point pick, which I think is a bit fairer because it's unbreakable. So on the flank, it means that it can protect the flank without any really downside. 50
points
which is
less than a dragon.
Yeah, and it can kill a dragon in one hit. It's kind of brutal. And
I hope when they bring out the new version of the rules, they actually have a bit of a think about points.
So I definitely think that was them because they sold our model for however much, and they wanted to sell a bunch when it came out with that book. It was a bit but in terms of our deployment, I definitely felt that we had a great deployment in kind of being able to park here. But again, the whole wood thing and this being like open did make an effect. And because of at the start we had the hill each, which meant that this was kind of had free.
It's got a massive range, and Chris needed to close in on the range.
I did notice that when you deployed the terrain, because you guys have the terrain, you made sure you had at least one hill to put your war machines on.
Yeah.
But
that wasn't me. But
that again didn't make a difference to the actual outcome.
And we did roll for the side that you get, so it was a 50-50 chance of...
Well, there's always...
So there's still a hill here, there's still a hill.
So I will say the Iron Demon, I've killed them quite a few times. Besides their initial hit in combat, they're actually very weak in that they're limited to 3 normal attacks.
But it's got the Thunderstomp.
But only against things that can Thunderstomp. So against the Hydra, if it could survive, but we got a gun. When we roll 6 impact hits... it's not much.
It was above the. I mean, let me think. You should get what 3.5 plus the 2.
Because we only
statistically you're going to kill a Hydra on a charge.
And then for the final wound, Emilio managed to get the 6 with the crew member, and he killed him with the strength 3.
And let's face it, Chris, I did roll a storm tonight.
I didn't for the most part.
But to be honest with you, when you rolled a storm, it didn't matter.
With the exception of. Mate, we were actually really lucky in that Emilio got an amazing amount of 6s, except for miscasting with our 300 plus point wizard, who could have been sucked
too much to ask. And there's things you give wizards.
Yeah, my magic rolls weren't great.
No, but as in that was almost good in that he didn't get sucked into the.
To be honest with you, I'm not worried about the luck. Because it was all over.
For what it's worth, I won't be fielding this army again. This is kind of for the 2v2 scenario. And even before I questioned Emilio, if what do you think?
No, I
But
thought
he was
it
like,
was
yeah,
I
go
said
for
bring
it.
it.
And I was
I said
like,
bring it.
okay.
Yeah.
I like to use casualties, do a
like
bit
this
more.
is how you lose friends.
Yeah, this is the equivalent of a dwarven kind of gun line, but a chaos dwarven one, and it's one of the ones you do once every blue moon, but certainly not.
But yeah, look,
fucking repeated thing.
the bias was because the matchup was it was the two of us against
We
Chris
had no
and
idea
Mark,
what army it was,
and
so
Mark
I had
brings
no
these kinds of armies to the table.
Part of the
So
problem with chaos dwarfs is because they're core and they have limited choices. So there are only so many things you can do. And one of the things which I like are a special unit of fire elementals. We just don't have the models for.
we don't.
And so in the special field, we were a bit limited in terms of what. And in the rare, there's a giant, and then there's these. And because I don't normally use a hell cannon with people up because I don't like them, I thought, cool, it'll be fun to use one again for the first time in ages. And again, that.
well, if I had to give a
brutal.
prize to the most efficient killing machine on the table, I'm going to give it to the hell cannon.
He made them flee. It killed 7 of 10 or maybe whatever. It killed like 15 or 6, made them
Took our
flee.
elite cavalry unit.
And then the couple of remaining knights that
That's
charged him made
devastating.
8. And he has taken 1 wound only, which is just...
He takes the prize. He gets
nasty.
first prize. And then
And that's one with this thing.
the
which
quake
is-
cannon comes close
But
second.
again, to get this one rolling, we have the extra. So this is more points, and it's not as brutal. So that's a 200 something point, and what it did was ridiculous.
Well, what can I say? Everything killed the living shit out of everything in front of it, except the one thing that killed itself. So on that note, I think it's time to call it a night.